English has become the global language of business, travel, and communication. But when it comes to Asia, one question keeps coming up again and again. Who really speaks the best English? For years, people around the world have argued about whether countries like the Philippines, Singapore, India, or even Malaysia lead the pack. Some point to test scores, others point to daily use, while many rely on personal experiences with travelers, workers, and students. But when you dig deeper into the numbers, the history, and the reality of daily life, you'll be surprised at what the truth actually is, and the answer is not always what people expect. At the center of this debate stands the Philippines, a country often celebrated as one of the most English-proficient nations in Asia. With millions of Filipinos working abroad as nurses, teachers, customer service agents, and professionals in global industries, the reputation of the Philippines as an English powerhouse is hard to ignore. But how does it really compare to the rest of Asia? And what makes the Filipino relationship with English so unique compared to its neighbors? To understand this, we need to go back in time, to history, education, and culture, and then move forward to the modern world where English is both an opportunity and a challenge. The Philippines has a very distinct background that sets it apart. After centuries of Spanish colonization, the islands became an American territory in the late 1800s. With the Americans came the English language, not just as a subject, but as a medium of instruction in schools. Unlike many other Asian countries where English is taught as a foreign language, in the Philippines it became part of daily life through education, governance, and media. This deep historical link gave Filipinos a head start in building proficiency. Today, English is not just a second language in the Philippines, it is one of the official languages alongside Filipino. Government documents are written in English. Courts operate in English. And many universities deliver lectures in English. This gives Filipinos a level of comfort with the language that is rare in Asia. But history alone doesn't guarantee fluency. What makes the Philippines stand out is how English has become woven into the culture. From television shows and movies to social media and music, English is everywhere. Young Filipinos grow up exposed to both Filipino and English almost equally. Even in casual conversations, it is common to hear Taglish, a mix of Tagalog and English, showing just how naturally people switch between languages. This kind of bilingual environment makes it easier for Filipinos to not only learn English, but to use it comfortably without the stiffness or hesitation often found in countries where English is treated purely as an academic subject. Now, let's compare this to other Asian countries. Singapore often ranks at the very top when it comes to English proficiency in Asia. English is the official working language of the country, and schools use English as the main medium of instruction. But Singapore's case is very different. It is a small nation with a high standard of living, and its population is much smaller than the Philippines. While Singaporeans may excel in standardized test scores, the sheer number of Filipinos who use English daily in different fields worldwide makes the Philippines more visible in global English communication. In fact, the Philippines has become one of the top destinations for international companies that want English-speaking employees for call centers, IT services, and business process outsourcing. These companies choose the Philippines not only because of cost advantages, but because Filipinos can communicate clearly and effectively in English with a neutral accent that is easier for Western clients to understand. India is another interesting case. With over 1 billion people and hundreds of local languages, English serves as a unifying language in many parts of India. It is widely used in business, politics, and education. Many Indians are highly proficient in English, especially in urban areas and among the educated middle class. However, The challenge India faces is consistency. While some Indians speak English at a very high level, others struggle with it, creating a wide gap in proficiency across the population. This is where the Philippines has an advantage. English proficiency is more evenly spread across society. Even ordinary workers, taxi drivers, or farmers often have a basic working knowledge of English, something that cannot always be said in other Asian countries. Malaysia, on the other hand, has strong English speakers as well, thanks to its colonial past under the British. English is widely taught and used in business and tourism, but like India, proficiency levels vary. Urban Malaysians are often very good in English, but in rural areas, the usage drops significantly. Meanwhile, in countries like Japan, South Korea, China, and Thailand, English education has been a challenge for decades. Despite heavy investments in English learning, these countries still struggle with fluency. Students in Japan and Korea spend years studying grammar and vocabulary. But when it comes to speaking, many hesitate due to cultural emphasis on perfection and fear of mistakes. China has the largest number of English learners in the world, but true conversational fluency remains rare outside major cities. This contrast makes the Philippines stand out even more. But let's go beyond comparisons and look at how the world actually experiences Filipino English. One of the strongest indicators is the global workforce. Millions of overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, are employed around the world in industries that require communication skills. Nurses in the Middle East, teachers in Japan, caregivers in Europe, and seafarers on international ships. These workers often rely on English to perform their duties. Their ability to switch between their local languages and English gives them an edge in adapting to different environments. Then there's the BPO industry, which has turned the Philippines into a hub of global customer service. Call centers staffed by young Filipinos handle clients from the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, and beyond. This industry thrives precisely because Filipinos can not only understand, but also connect with foreign customers in a natural and professional way. Another surprising factor is entertainment. The Philippines has a huge presence in global social media platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Many Filipino influencers, vloggers, and singers use English to reach an international audience. Compare this with countries like Japan or Korea, where content is often targeted locally and translated later. In the Philippines, creators are already comfortable speaking directly to the world in English. This exposure continues to boost proficiency across generations. Still, some critics argue that just because Filipinos can speak English doesn't mean their grammar is perfect or their vocabulary is advanced. That's true. Filipino English has its own quirks, influenced by local culture and usage. There are unique phrases, intonations, and sometimes grammatical slips that show the influence of native languages. But this isn't necessarily a weakness. In fact, many linguists say that Filipino English is a legitimate variety of English, much like American, British, or Indian English. It has its own identity and rules shaped by the environment. And for most people around the world, what matters most is clarity and effectiveness, not textbook perfection. So when people ask who speaks better English in Asia, the answer depends on what you're measuring. If you look at test scores alone, Singapore might come out on top. If you look at the size of population using English daily, India takes the crown. But if you ask who uses English most naturally, consistently, and accessibly across all levels of society, the Philippines stands out as a clear leader. That is why international companies, schools, and even foreign students often prefer the Philippines when it comes to English communication. What surprises many is how English in the Philippines is not just about language, but about culture. Filipinos use English not only to connect with the outside world, but also to connect with each other across regions and dialects. With more than 170 local languages spoken in the Philippines, English sometimes acts as the bridge between people from different islands. This is something unique that other Asian countries do not experience to the same extent. In India, English plays a similar role, but because of its size and diversity, regional differences still create barriers. In the Philippines, the balance between Filipino and English is smoother and more unified. Now, let's not forget the challenges. While many Filipinos are fluent in English, there are also parts of the country where education quality is low, and exposure to English is less. Rural areas, poor communities, and schools with limited resources may struggle. The government continues to push for stronger education programs, but inequalities remain. Despite this, the level of exposure to English through media, the internet, and migration keeps boosting the overall proficiency nationwide. Looking at the future, English will remain a powerful tool for the Philippines. As the world becomes more connected, demand for English communication continues to grow. Countries like Vietnam and Indonesia are now racing to improve their English education systems to compete, but the Philippines already has decades of advantage. The global job market, from tech companies to healthcare, continues to value Filipino workers for their English skills. Even Hollywood and Western companies often look to the Philippines for collaborations, outsourcing, and partnerships because communication is easier. When we compare across Asia, it's clear that English proficiency is not just about exams or accents, but about how naturally and effectively people can use the language in real life. And this is where the Philippines shines. From classrooms to boardrooms, from villages to global cities, from singers to nurses, English is alive and thriving in the Philippines. So, who really speaks better English in Asia? The answer may surprise you, but if you look at history, culture, and daily practice, the Philippines is not just competing, it is leading. Singapore may have the scores, India may have the numbers, but the Philippines has the balance of accessibility, fluency, and global recognition. And that is why when people around the world think of Asia's English speakers, the Philippines often comes first to mind.